Right after Kevin bought the Starry Sky ring for Lily, he got a call from Phoebe. She wanted him to meet her right away at an antique store on Belmont Avenue. It sounded very urgent. Kevin had an odd but very strong feeling that the Night King wanted him to go there. "Phoebe asked you to help her?" Lily didn't seem very pleased with the idea. She could easily understand the way Phoebe looked at Kevin. After all, he was very handsome, but that didn't mean she should let down her guard. "She wants me to check out an antique, and I really think that it's important." Kevin had an unusually serious expression on his face. "Then let's go there right away. Plus, that's a really good street for antiquing." Lily took Kevin's hand and they left the jewelry store in a hurry. Belmont Avenue was just north of the Loop in downtown Chicago. There were a lot of interesting antique shops all along the street, and Lily was hoping to have some time to look around. After Kevin and Lily parked, they walked quickly to the shop where Phoebe was waiting. As they passed the other shops, they could see a lot of interesting items in the windows. One of them even had a display that looked like a 1950s kitchen, including appliances. Lily thought it looked really chic with the pastel blue-green cabinets and salmon fridge. When they entered the shop on the corner to meet Phoebe, a large group of collectors was already there having a loud discussion. Kevin and Lily squeezed into the middle of the crowd and found Phoebe standing next to her father at the counter. Truman Anderson was negotiating with a middle-aged man in a three-piece suit. "What's going on?" Kevin glanced at the jewelry box on the counter and frowned a little. "Kevin, you're finally here." Phoebe smiled when she saw him. Phoebe's reaction made both her father and Lily extremely unhappy. "Have you discovered something unusual?" Kevin asked with a smile. "Here's what's going on. The owner of this shop has been a good friend of my father's for many years. He recently got this antique jewelry box, so he asked my father to come over and take a look." Phoebe smiled a little as she told Kevin the reason she'd invited him along. "You know how my father is. He can't walk away from a good deal. However, my father can't tell whether this thing is real or fake, so I called you." Before Kevin could reply, the man standing next to Phoebe asked, "Who's your friend?" "This is Kevin." Phoebe hesitated a little. "He's a good friend of our family, and we trust his opinion a lot." Then she turned to Kevin. "This young man is Walter Beckett." "Hello." Kevin immediately reached out to shake the man's hand. "Since Phoebe called you, that means you must know something about appraisal." A look of disdain flashed in Walter's eyes. Kevin didn't answer his question, but instead turned his attention to the gold box on the counter. It had carvings of birds and flowers on all of its sides and on the lid. "What are you doing here, Kevin?" Truman Anderson was in an especially bad mood. Whenever Truman saw Kevin or even heard his name, he thought about that awkward moment when he'd walked into his home and seen his daughter and her friends tied up. He still held Kevin responsible for it. "Phoebe called me over to take a look." Kevin reached out and touched the box, and he furrowed his brow as he studied the low-relief decorations. "Walter, what do you think about this item?" Truman ignored Kevin and spoke directly to the young man who was standing next to Phoebe. "Truman, even though the piece is very beautiful, I just don't think it's worth the price. I think you should be very careful." Walter spoke very smoothly. He didn't try to persuade Truman to buy it, but he also didn't tell him not to buy it. But Truman trusted him anyway. What Kevin didn't know was that Walter Beckett was here with Phoebe mainly because of him. Ever since the last time Kevin saw her, Phoebe had spent her days languishing at home, not really interested in anything. It made Truman sad to see his daughter like that. As far as Truman was concerned, Kevin was a bad influence. His only redeeming quality was his ability to appraise antiques. So he asked Mr. Jordan, the store owner, to invite Walter to come to Chicago and then get in touch with his daughter. "What's the seller asking?" Kevin raised an eyebrow and looked up from the box. $2 million. Phoebe stared at Kevin as she answered his question. "Yes, it's worth it. You should take it." Kevin nodded his head in approval. "Kevin, are you serious?" Although Truman didn't like Kevin anymore, he still trusted his opinion on antiques. "Of course I'm serious. Kevin replied firmly. In fact, he had more to say, but he didn't want to talk about it in front of so many people. $2 million was a lot to spend, but Truman thought that he could double his money if Kevin was right.
That's ridiculous, Walter sneered at Kevin. Do you really know anything about antiques? While the decorations are very interesting, there's not enough gold just based on weight to justify a price like that.
Beckett continued.
On top of that, there isn't a lot of detail in the flowers. It's barely worth $200,000, let alone $2 million. You have no idea what you're talking about.
The people who had gathered around them seemed to agree with his comments. One of them even whispered very loudly, I wouldn't expect any less from one of Mr. Anderson's friends. He's a perfect match for Phoebe. Phoebe was visibly upset when she heard these comments. She was afraid that Kevin would take it the wrong way. The store's owner, Mr. Jordan, also looked distressed. He'd gone through a lot of time and expense to get this antique jewelry box, and now it looked like he might stand to lose a lot of money on it. But he also knew that Walter was an expert appraiser and there was nothing wrong with what he said, so he couldn't challenge him on it. Truman nodded slightly and spoke to Mr. Jordan. My friend, I think Walter's right. Perhaps we should hold off on this purchase. Wait a minute, Kevin suddenly interrupted them. Truman, if you don't buy this item, you're making a big mistake. Truman sighed when he heard Kevin say this. I know you have extraordinary potential in antique appraisal, but you're still young and don't have enough experience. You can still make mistakes, but Walter is different. He's had intensive training and has a lot more experience than you do. The onlookers agreed with Truman's comments and nodded their heads in approval. They'd never even seen Kevin before, so how could he come in here and tell everyone what to do? So you're just going to take his word over mine? Kevin joked. It's not that I don't believe you, it's just that I believe Walter more. When Truman finished speaking, he looked over at Walter. After all, Walter was his future son-in-law. He had to show him some support in front of all these people. Truman, you really ought to take my advice. If you buy this, you'll make a lot of money. Kevin smiled as he tried to change Truman's mind.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.